Welcome to RHCC Talks, and we thought we'd begin with two of our younger adults and talk a little bit about the importance of intergenerational ministry. They may not know this, but I'm going to ask some questions. My former news reporter hat on to ask them some questions about who they are, how they got to where they are, and that kind of stuff. I've already been told by Peyton to not use certain phrases because that annoys her when I say certain things. So we'll see if I can handle that. All right, so first of all, welcome to Lizzie Sid and Peyton White. We are videotaping this so that anybody who's not here today can see it later on. So Lizzie, why don't we start with you? So tell us what you're currently doing in life.
My name is Lizzie Sid. I am currently on maternity leave. I just had a daughter 2 months and 2 weeks ago.
Yay!
She's the greatest joy of my life. Prior to motherhood, I was here at Round Hill as the co-coordinator of our children's ministries. I split that while I also teach literacy at Hamilton Avenue School here in Greenwich. I work with the grades K through 5. And let's start there.
And Peyton, what are you doing right now?
Hi guys, I'm Peyton. I brought notes on my phone, okay? I'm not being rude. I don't like public speaking, but so I'm getting ready to depart in less than a month to be a Peace Corps volunteer in Namibia, where I will be a secondary education elementary teacher for 27 months.
Wow. Would you tell everybody where Namibia is, just in case they don't know?
So it's not in South Africa, not the country of South Africa, it's right above it. So it's on the western side of Africa in the southern part. So.
Okay, so the next question I want to ask you both to consider is, what is it that brought you to this point in your life? So motherhood, I mean, obviously we know some about what brings you to motherhood, but what, in terms of your teaching and your next step being here at Round Hill, what was it that brought you to this point?
To being a teacher?
Yeah, to being a teacher and just in your own life. What were things that were important to you when you were thinking about teaching as well as being here at Round Hill?
Oh, I love this question. I feel like a lot of you have heard this story. So I was a junior in high school, and I was a menace. I was not enjoying going to classes. In fact, the day when I found out about Round Hill, I was late to the class that taught me about Round Hill. I walked in very casual, and our teacher was telling us about a service trip to go work with people that needed some more help. And I was hardly paying attention. All I heard was trip. And I said, sign me up. I told my friends around, I was like, oh my gosh, let's go do it. And we're like, okay. So then I actually read it. And I wasn't that much of a rapscallion. I actually saw, like, this actually sounds really great. I mean, we're helping a group of people that are underserved. And, I have 2 hands. Let's go spend some time there. So I signed up. And the first people I met from Round Hill were Ed and Caroline. And they interviewed me for the position. And it humbled me a bit when I read it before. I was like, wow, wait, this is really incredible trip. And so I really prepared myself. I read more into the company Simply Smiles that we were taking the trip with. And I was able to prepare myself for the interview to the point where they liked what I said. And I was very genuine about it all. I think it was just part of me that just was still young and wasn't ready to take myself or life very seriously, but this kind of straightened me up. So once they accepted me onto the trip, I was like, oh, how exciting, and I couldn't wait because a lot of my close friends were also accepted, and it didn't hit me what was actually happening until I was actually in the airport, and I was like, I am going for the first time by myself, not with my family, leaving the state. And it was really nerve-wracking, and I got really nervous. I was like, oh, okay, this is like a trip. And I was panicking on the flight, truly. And it didn't really hit me till the bus had stopped and we were in like the desert. The service had run out on my phone and I was like, oh, no. What did I do? But it took 3 days for me to figure out exactly what did I do for the rest of my life, all on that trip. I met the most incredible children ever, and these are kids that have lost everything and need everything. and they taught me so much about my life, myself, about their lives, everything they've been through. And it was the most life-changing experience where I was like, I want to work with children. I want to do what I need to do in my hometown to be able to serve all of you guys in a greater way. And I told Ed, leaving that trip, I cried too. I said, I want to create something bigger than myself. And this place has helped me to realize that. So when I came home from that trip, I got myself together. I went to classes on time. I got my grades up. And Ed even mentioned the experience I had there and how I really impressed him. That he mentioned me to the program and that they were looking for someone in their nursery and recommended me for it. And I was like, of course. I mean, yeah, that's a start. I'd love to. I love the experience of working with Round Hill, and let's continue that in the nursery. Sounds great. I started in the nursery. I did that for a year. A new director came along, and she liked what she saw as well. Moved me up to the classrooms. And I grew and grew from being a teacher in the rooms to being head teacher of all the rooms, and then assistant, and eventually to the coordinator, which was the greatest blessing ever, because continuing to have more experience with the kids. I went to South Dakota 2 more times, the first time was on a scholarship. The next 2 times were on my dollar, and I felt so much better knowing that I use so much of the money that I able to earn from working at Round Hill to be able to go back and continue the bond, the relationship I had with all of them. That I think it was 3 or 4 times, I can't remember now, but I went back a couple more times, and every time I saw them, they remembered me, and that was the most incredible experience. And it makes me want to work harder here as a teacher and work on a lot of the different laws that we have to better support the children. You know, I want to be a teacher for the kids, and I want to continue that to the point where I can make real change in other countries that are underserved. And being here at Round Hill, all people that I've supported and have had their own great experiences, it's helped me a lot. And being a mother has made it even a stronger goal of mine, knowing that I want my own child to see the world the way I see it now, and all the things that it needs, and the way that we can help with just our 2 arms and 2 legs. So that's been
Wow.
I don't think I can follow that.
So you've had a different experience in that when I was here before, she would come in and be here every morning with me and getting ready for worship, and you'd have to be here. As you said before, you've been to church more than most people in their lives, being a pastor's kid. So tell us how you got to where you are.
Well, since all of you probably know, I was adopted from Russia, and so that always facilitated an interest in different countries and cultures and just people of like the world for me. So during college, I went into international relations, and I area studied in Africa and also in development and political economy. And I really wanted to use the different service methods that I learned here through Round Hill and also at Wilton Presbyterian. Sorry guys, I'm gonna use my notes. But service really gave me an interest in working with people from a different continent and culture. It changed my own perspective on the importance of material things, and it helped me to better understand my privilege and how I could help use it to help other people. So I'm hoping that when going to Namibia, I'm more grounded, and I know that the service that I've learned through here, through different churches, and just through all of you people who have been in my life, the intergenerational relationships that I've made here has really helped me become the adult that I am. And so yeah, thank you all.
That's great. And so we went, when I was here before, we took a couple of trips to Nicaragua, so that was before you were here, and we actually, some of Jake's nieces and nephews went with us. Nancy Mazzoli's kids went with us. Who else? Anybody from here go with us to that? Sandy Motlin. We did stuff at Susie. Yep. Yeah, a lot of folks actually. We had big groups. You went on that same trip when we went to Wilton. How did that change your perspective some in seeing a developing country?
It was especially, so I went when I was a freshman in high school, so I was about maybe 13, 14. It was the first time that I've ever been to a place that had such poverty, but also such happy people. You know, you go somewhere else and you expect people to be sad and they don't have all the things that we have, but they were happier than all the people around here. And I remember coming home, my entire friend group changed. Like, everything about me changed. I was like, I can't hang out with you guys anymore. Like, I don't care about this. Well, it's true, like, I don't care about the same things, and that's where, like, the importance of materialistic things kind of just went out the window for me. It's not as important as we all think it is. And just seeing, we spent a lot of time, it was me and another team, we spent a lot of time with the kids there. We would play from like 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., like baseball, basketball, soccer. Now, I'm not a sporty person, but I loved it. And just creating those relationships, and then also with the fellow parishioners that we went with, like all coming together and experiencing the same things. But when you're younger, you're experiencing it different than someone who's older, but you still take from it and you learn from it, and it helps keep you grounded. And I think that's truly how important service is. And I always say, once you start service, you never stop. Like, I've been doing different service projects throughout my entire life. Yes, because my mother is a minister, so I'm always here doing things, but it's also my choice too. And it's just something that I've really loved to do, and it's become such a big part of me and also part of my future.
Proud mama. Okay, so let's talk some more about the personal interactions. You've talked some about that, Lizzie, but when you've interacted with people, because people need to know that they make a difference when they're talking to younger folks, right? Whether they're in high school or whether they're in elementary. What was it about, I mean, you talked some about with Ed, right? When you were dealing with other people from Round Hill on the trip, what was it that what made you feel connected?
So on the trip, Janet Hewley was there as well. Janet and Joe Hewley were there. And I really did connect a lot with both of them, because there was always this end of the day wrap up where we all got together as a group, we'd say a prayer, we'd talk about our day. Then we disperse into our own little cliques or so. And I would speak to them, and we'd just go over the day and talk about how different things could be. Like on the service trip, we see kids that are coming in clothes that they've been wearing all week, or shoes that don't fit them. And while they look so uncomfortable in all this, they are so themselves at the same time. And we would talk about that, because just like as Peyton says, it's a culture shock to see the difference from like where we live somewhere like here in Greenwich, and then going out to a reservation that lacks so much, and how it feels to know both worlds now, and how much difference you want to make. And I would speak to Janet and Joe and Ed, and the way they also spoke, they were having such a similar experience, and it's painful to see all what's happening around the world, and us being in our bubble, being here, being able to enjoy clean water, clean air, and going to places and feeling so attached and bonded, but knowing that we have to say goodbye eventually, and there's only so much we can do from here sometimes, and it doesn't feel like enough. And that's a lot what we talked about, that it doesn't feel like enough, and sometimes it isn't, but we can do as much as we can. And that's like an experience I shared with them, with a lot of the other members of the group, and we brought that back with us, because every time we came back from a trip, all we would talk about for weeks was the trip. Do you remember this? Do you remember that? Have you spoken to this? Have you spoken to them? And it sticks with you. Like Peyton said, once you start, you don't stop. It's all you can think about. It's all I talk about. It's all And when they weren't able to stop going because of COVID, it was heartbreaking. And I said, the second they open up that reservation, I'm going back. I need to see how they're all doing. Because I still talk to a lot of them. And it's heartbreaking, because there are people that have passed since, and it's one of the moms there, I got very close to her because she just had her son, she adopted, and I spent the whole time with her son. He was 2 years old, and when I found out that she had recently passed, it was so heartbreaking, because I had known her for a total of maybe a month if you add up all my time together, and to know that her kids are out there without a parent, and I couldn't just fly to them immediately, was really difficult. But it really does just motivate you to do more, to be able to help them. And I can share that with people who are here in Greenwich with me, and say, oh, this happened, and then we think about like, how do we help? How can we continue to make change even from far away? So it's a shared experience that you bring back with them, and it's a bond that you just don't break.
And you actually have been very helpful with the first round of Afghan evacuees that were here, right? You went and played with some of the kids?
Going to South Dakota, changes where you just, anything you hear about people that are having a hard time in relocating, assimilating everything, you run to it. And when I heard about the Afghan evacuees, I raised my hand so quickly. I was like, I want to go. Can I go? Can I help? What do I do? What can I? And I did. I went to their house and I did things like help them connect their TV, fix a stroller, these random little like house chores. I was so glad to go, and I would play with the little kids, and we had no language in common. The only person I could speak with was the dad, but the children were more interested in me being there, and we could not speak to each other, but it didn't change a thing. We still played, they were rolling around, tickling, stuff like that, playing with blocks. Anything they had, any way I could connect with them besides language, it works, because just your presence is such a huge impact on so many people that are having a hard time right now in their lives. And if that's all they need, is that as much as I can do, and I'll do it. And I was so grateful to meet them and spend time with them while I could.
That's great. And so when we do things like the breakfast run, or when you cook for Inspirica, and when you do the composting, each time that you connect with someone, it changes you, right? As well as the other person.
Well, can I speak on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So as you guys know, when did we start here?
When you were 7.
Yeah, so I was pretty young, and like Lizzie said, I was a menace as well, as you all probably remember. But something about Round Hill, it's always been like a second home to me. Any church that I've been at, it's always felt like a community, but especially like basically being raised here, and like during the time when my mother was a single mother, I had so many people like looking out for me, always sitting with Miss Browning in the morning in the pew, Madison Heath, Elena Debnar, Marianne Debnar, Nancy Mazzoli, Nancy Gray, Helen O'Malley, like all of these people, just I've had relationships with for so long, and I'm so close. Like I saw Elena a few weeks ago, and me and her text, and Madison Heath, we always give each other a hug when we see each other, and even though we haven't been back in a very long time, and I'm grown up now, those relationships, they really do stay the same. And it's funny because all of my friends and anyone who I've met out of the church community, like whether they be older or younger, like, you're such an old soul, how can you talk to adults so well? I'm like, Round Hill Community Church, guys. Like, I've been talking to adults, like I've spent like so many hours and probably years in this church just speaking with all of you and just really learning how to make deep connections. And I think that's a huge part of church, like whether you go to sit with friends, you go for the community, you go just to read the Bible, like it's just so important for every different generation. And so reaching out to the kids, or the kids reaching out to you, like I can't remember their names, but every Sunday,
The voices.
yes, they would come and tell me a joke, and I would bring a joke for them, they would bring a joke for me, and like it's things like that that I still remember. So yeah, it's like this place really does stick with you. So
Yeah, and the Lazaras too.
the Lazaras,
Used to
yeah.
call him, what'd you call him?
Jersey boy.
Jersey boy.
He always had the shell in his
With the
hair.
bow tie.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm appreciative that, that I could come and bring her here and know that she was in good hands, right? While I was busy off doing something, and you all would be there caring for her and pouring in to her all of the different things and just challenging her, and just, it was quite wonderful. Challenges for you today. What's a challenge that you have?
To be very transparent, motherhood.
Motherhood.
Motherhood has been a challenge. I have seen so many Hallmark movies where it's the most like glorious, glowing thing, like sundresses and clothes and matching outfits. But I am so excited just to shower. and I get some nights she'll have like 7-8 hours of sleep, and that's not even nearly enough to what I need now. But it was a shock. It was a big shock to find out that she needs to eat every 2 hours for the first couple weeks, and having to provide that myself with my own body too, wanting that for her, and then not being able to, and having to supplement. That was really hard for me too. And the first 2 weeks really hit. I could not leave bed. I had a cesarean, and that was physically painful, mentally painful, everything. And that's really difficult to go through when you have just had your first child and you just want to love her with all your might and spend every second just being so grateful and appreciative about the blessing that you now have. but having to do it at the same time while recovering from surgery that you were not expecting to have that morning, not expecting to have a 6-week recovery, and then having to do it in a split second, that was the biggest challenge. Accepting that I would have to be, I'm her sole caregiver, and while I do have my husband at the end of the day, I'm sure a lot of others can relate, that it really is on you. And it's hard getting up sometimes at 5 a.m., hearing those cries, wanting to really be there, but it's so hard to even just get yourself up. But the second you hold her and she opens her eyes and looks at you, you just feel this warmth that fills you, and you're willing to go run a mile if that's what she needs you to do. And while it's hard to learn all these new things, she had the sniffles, just the sniffles, and I ran to the pediatrician crying, and they asked what's wrong, and I was like, her nose is stuffy, and they're like, what else? And I'm like, well, I feel like you can hear the stuffiness, and I just like, what do we do? And then I'm saying, like, if it's a fever, they have to go to the hospital, a spinal tapping, hearing that and just drowning at the thought of it, and staying up all night just watching her breathe and hoping that nothing changes, and the slightest pattern of her breathing makes you want to like collapse, but knowing you can't collapse, because then who's going to watch over and be her sole person that's going to make sure she's okay? And it really, as much as you want to enjoy it and just soak in every second, a lot of it is just a lot of worry and exhaustion, and it hurts to think that I didn't get to really enjoy it because of how hard it was to adjust and learn what it was to be a mother. Because I read that book from the first month of my pregnancy, that cover to front and out the window pretty much, because when they say every kid is different, every kid is different. She is nothing like what I thought she was going to be, but it doesn't change how grateful and how much I love her. And she is the center of my world. I will do anything and everything for that beautiful baby.
Any challenges for you right now?
I think it's just like the transition for me. I just stopped working at a preschool, which thank goodness I do not miss those 2-year-olds. But and just getting ready to like leave and like mentally and emotionally prepare for that. I know like my mother, Virgil, all my friends, they're like, we don't believe it's really happening. Like we don't think it's actually true. And I think until the day before and the day after I'm gone, then it's gonna hit all of us. So it's about kind of not letting like fear overtake me and more excitement. Because you know, people say like, what is it, like sleep when you're dead or something like that. Like, you know, just like be excited about what you're doing. Don't be fearful. Like I cry every other night about it, like freaking out.
You do?
But I think what I'm really just trying to hold on to is just excitement and joy and new opportunity. And I'll be back in 2 years. Like you're not going to be dead before that. So but also just like saying goodbye. I think that's a big challenge for like everyone, like mothers leaving their daughters and sons for college or just moving out. It's like finally like leaving the nest and everything. So my nest is a little farther away than many people's are. So I think that's just the big challenge.
I mean, you went to Australia in high school
Yes.
for 5 months, 6 months, and that was tough for me. I'm sure you will hear from me about that. And we're going to come see you next summer.
We are already looking at Airbnbs. So.
Yeah, so it's good to know that you're feeling it at night. She doesn't let me know that because I'm feeling it too. So.
Well, now I've let everyone know.
Okay, that's right. Any last words that you want to say? And then maybe we have a question or two. Anything else you want to say?
Well, when Peyton was talking about Roundhill, her growing up here, she couldn't be more spot on. This really is a home away from home. I was raised Catholic, and I've gone to that church my whole life, and I've sat there daydreaming, color books, looking at the Bible, reading random things. Never once have I really paid attention. But here, it is so different. I walk in, and I know people first and last name, where their kids are, how their kids are. And it's so fun. The wit of it all is so fun. Coming in, how are you, Greta? How are you, Nancy? Joe, where's Scott? When's he coming to visit? Things like that. It's so fun. It's exciting. And I come here on my own. At church when I was a kid, my parents had to force me out of bed. I come here willingly every day, not by myself, I have Abby, but essentially on my own, because it's somewhere you just want to be. The people here, they make you laugh, they make you smile. It's sunshine. It's sunshine and miracles here.
Love it. Anything else you want to say?
No, just thank you all for, I probably would not be where I am today without the help from all of you. So,
Thank you.